I'm going to talk in this video about factoring quadratics. Quadratics involving integer coefficients, including possibly the squared term. Okay, so for example, 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. Now previously we saw how to factor quadratic expressions where we didn't have a coefficient on the x squared. Well, we had, or you can consider we had a 1, all right? And we were able to figure out the binomials of the product that gave us the factorization, okay? Now, because of the number in front of the x squared, things are going to be a little bit different, okay? Let me show you how, and hopefully this example is instructive. So we don't just want to put an x and an x because that'll give us x squared, right? But this time we need those pieces to multiply to 2x squared. So how about 2x times x? All right? And then for the right side we have the number 2. Okay, and so you might think 2 and 1 or minus 2 and minus 1. Okay, now because the 2x squared introduced a number into our factorization, it's going to turn out that the order is going to matter for what we're doing for the last number. Okay, so in other words, these two choices, 2, 1 and minus 2, minus 1, we have to also consider 1, 2, and minus 1, minus 2. Okay? If you put these candidate numbers in there in a different order, it will make a difference. If you didn't have a coefficient on the x squared, it wouldn't make a difference, but now it does, so keep that in mind. Okay? So let's go ahead and make a candidate solution of each of these 4. Okay, and so which one is the correct answer? Well, you can do FOIL either on paper or if in your head. If you can, we just need the middle term, all right? And can you see which one will give you the correct middle term of 5? Okay, now try to multiply the inners and outers of FOIL in your head. So on the first one, the outers, the 2 and the 1, the product of 1 and 2 is 2. The inners, the product of 2 and 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 gives you a 4. Okay, so that's not a 5 that we need. Okay, see how that works? Okay, now let's do the second one. So the outer, the 2 and the minus 1, they multiply to minus 1. The inners, the minus 2 and the 1, multiplies to minus 2. That doesn't give us a 5. Minus 2 minus 2, that gives us a minus 4. So that one's out. Okay? And then the third one, if you FOIL that out, you will see that that one gives us the correct middle term. Okay? So the third one is the correct factorization. All right? Now, did I have to consider a lot of candidate solutions? Yes. Will you possibly have to FOIL out a lot of trial solutions to see which one by trial and error is the correct one? Yes. Okay. Now, yes, this is tedious. It's tedious for me as well, but it is guaranteed to work if the original quadratic expression is able to be factored. Okay. Now, after you do this long enough, you will be able to do a lot of the foiling in your head, and you will quickly be able to zero in on the right answer, and you won't need to write out, long lists of candidate solutions anymore. But I'm working it out this way right now because I don't want to assume anything. I want to leave everything clear and explicit for you. All right, but just know that when you farther along, you'll be able to do this a lot quicker. Okay, and you won't need to write as much. Okay, so let's do another example in the same fashion. What about 3x squared minus 7x plus 2. Okay, so the 3x squared, that's 3x times x. Okay, now, so far, the first number, there hasn't been a lot of choices for the first number. Okay, if the coefficient of the x squared was something like a 12 or 60, heaven forbid, there would be a mountain of possible choices. And so we'd have to consider that, we'd have to consider multiple choices for the firsts of each binomial, okay? But we're starting out where we don't have to do that, okay? So, all right, so we've got those. Now the 2 on the right side. So 2 times 1, 1 times 2, minus 2 times minus 1 times minus 2. Now, remember what I was saying about how once you do this a lot, you will be able to see shortcuts? Okay, go ahead and try to do this on your own. You can pause the video right now if you like. But I'm going to show you one of those shortcuts right now. Okay? When you continue the video. All right, so we know that the middle number has to be a negative, right? So clearly, I'm not going to get a negative by multiplying a bunch of positives together. Okay, so that I don't have to consider those two choices. I only need to consider the last two pairs. Okay, so there's a little example of what I mean by your process will get a lot quicker in time. So we only consider these two, and let's see what happens. All right, so the first one, if we FOIL it out, the middle term will be minus 3 minus 2. That's a minus 5x. That's not correct. The last one, if we FOIL it out, the middle term will be minus 6 minus 1. That's a minus 7x. So indeed, that is correct. And there is the factorization of that one. Okay. Remember, you always want to factor these with FOIL. Remember to, you want to check them with FOIL. You always want to be open to the fact that you might need to use negative numbers. And you also want to be open to the fact that not every quadratic expression can be factored. All right? Now, let me close with one last example that I'll invite you to try on your own. Okay? Can you factor 12x squared minus 6x minus 6? Go ahead and pause the video and try that now. Okay, I will go ahead and work it out. So clearly there's a 12 in front, which is going to have a lot more choices. And even the 6 has the negative 6 on the right side. There's several choices for that. So you could do a mountain of solutions. Okay, and if you did and you got the right answer, God bless you. That's great. All right. However, there is one thing you can do here to make your life easier before we even start. Can you see that all of the terms have a common factor of a 6? So let me go ahead and factor out the 6. All right, you can go ahead and distribute to confirm that indeed that is the correct factor, that indeed that version is equal to the original quadratic expression. Okay, if you can catch those situations, you can go ahead and now you just have to factor the much nicer quadratic expression, all right, without the big coefficients. Okay, so factoring this example now, what are we going to get? So we're going to get, for the 2x squared, 2x and x, all right? And then for the minus 1, there's really only two choices, 1 and minus 1, or minus 1 and 1. And so let's try both of those. Okay, so now foiling it out in your head or on paper, the first one, minus 2 plus x, gives a minus x. Okay, the second one gives a plus x. We don't want the second one. If you work out you'll see that the first example is the correct factored form. Now, the middle term turned out to be a minus x. The reason that that's the one we want is because when we multiply it by a 6, the 6 on the outside there, 6 times minus x, that'll give us the minus 6x that we need. All right?